We are now recording. Goodness.
Ah,
All right.
Anaya's here.
Oh, well,
Got your copies there with.
good to see you for her. Here, okay, so I'm gonna take a corner and
Is that okay? All right.
That's perfectly good.
Whatever you would like to.
Yeah, that's fine.
Are we all set?
Yeah, we are recording. As we get set up, I'll introduce myself for anyone who's
Yes.
new. My name is Kellen Amy. I am the new-ish local history librarian. I started here in January. I grew up in South Brunswick, went to school here, and I'm currently 2 weeks from finishing my master's in library science at Rutgers. Thank you. And thank you all for coming tonight. This is like the biggest crowd that we've had so far. Partially too, thank you to Ed for getting your word letter group to come and help collaborate on an exciting presentation called The Pen and the Sword, the Impact of Poets and Pamphleteers During the American Revolution. It is April 2026, and we are ready to jump off into it. Yeah, I'll let you take it away.
Okay, Kellen, thank you. Tonight, what we're going to do is something adventurous because we haven't tried this before. I have a subtitle for The Pen and the Sword, and it's Old, New, Borrowed, and Jersey Blue. And what we're going to be doing is have the poets, they've selected their favorite poem from the whole bunch that we had of New Jersey poets for the most part, who were writing back in the 1770s during the Revolution or shortly thereafter. And we're going to be doing some readings, and then the poets are going to read something that they have written in 2026. So this will give you an opportunity to compare the poetry back in Revolutionary War times, 250 years ago, and the poetry of today to see what's in store for the next 250 years. So in a sense, these are the founding persons for the next 250 years, and we will be looking at the founding persons back in the 1770s. I want to dedicate this to Sarah Bales, or Bayless, 1767, and she died in 1781. The doctor who attended her when she died, and the witnesses said that she died of fright. What happened was a bunch of British dragoons came to the house of John and Susanna Bales, and they knocked on the door. And they were coming in and threatening the people who lived inside, and little Sarah died. And that's why the coroner and the doctor said died of fright. So I'm dedicating it to her. I'm going to start with a Thomas Paine poem, and then I'll be calling on some people to read their poems. This is entitled The Liberty Tree. In a chariot of light from the regions of the day, the goddess of liberty came. 10,000 celestials directed her way, and hither conducted the dame. A fair budding branch from the gardens above, where millions with millions agree, she brought in her hand as a pledge of her love, and the plant she named Liberty Tree. The celestial exotic stuck deep in the ground, like a native it flourished and bore. The fame of its fruit drew the nations around to seek out this peaceable shore. Unmindful of names or distinctions they came, for freemen like brothers agree. With one spirit endued, they one friendship pursued, and their temple was Liberty Tree. Beneath this fair tree, like the patriarchs of old, their bread in contentment they ate, unvexed with the troubles of silver or gold, the cares of the grand and the great. With timber and tar they old England supplied, and supported her power on the sea. Her battles they fought without getting a grip for the honor of Liberty Tree. But hear, O ye swains, 'tis a tale most profane, how all the tyrannical powers, kings, commons, and lords are uniting amain to cut down this guardian of ours. From the east to the west blow the trumpet to arms. Through the land let the sound of it flee. Let the far and the near all unite with a cheer in defense of our Liberty Tree. Now that was Thomas Paine, and we saw most of the time think of him in his prose writing that he did, but he was also a poet. And that may be something that you didn't know. And I wanted to start with that because he is the most prolific writer to get the patriots to be patriotic and get them moving. And this is a rather moving poem in its sort of old-fashioned way. Now, next we have Anaya. Oh, right here. And Anaya, you're going to be doing Phyllis Wheatley. Okay, go ahead.
Hail, happy day, when smiling like the morn, fair freedom moves New England to adorn. The northern clime beneath the genial rain, darkness, congrats, to thy blades, thy blissful sway. Elate with hope, her race no longer mourns. Each soul expands, each grateful bosom burns. While in thy hand, with pleasure we behold, silken reins and freedom's charms unfold. Long lost to realms beneath the northern skies, she shines supreme, while hated faction dies. Soon as appeared the goddess long desired, sick at the view she languished and expired. Thus from the splendors of the morning light, the owl in sadness seeks the caves of night. No more America in mournful strain, for wrongs and grievance unredressed complain. No longer shalt thou dread the iron chain, which wanton tyranny with lawless hand had made, and with it meant enslaved the land. Should you, my lord, while you peruse my song, wonder for whence my love of freedom sprung, whence flow these wishes for the common good, by feeling hearts alone best understood. I, young in life, by seeming cruel fate, was snatched from Africa, fancy happy seed. What pangs excruciating must molest, what sorrows labor in my parents' breasts. Still was the soul, and by no misery moved, that from a father seized his babe beloved. Such my case, and can I then but pray? Others may feel tyrannic sway. For favors past, great sir, our thanks are due, and thee we ask thy favors to renew. Since in thy power, as in thy will before, to suit the griefs which thou didst at once deplore. May heavenly grace the sacred sanction give to all thy works, and thou forever live. Not only on the wings of fleeting fame, thou praise immortal crowns the patriots' names, but to conduct to heaven's refulgent fame, may fiery coursers sweep thy eternal plain, and bear thee upwards to that blessed abode, where like the prophet thou shalt find thy God.
All right, and do you have a little bio on Phyllis Wheatley?
No, I don't.
Okay. Well, we know that Phyllis Wheatley was one of George Washington's favorite poets. And she was a slave who was well educated, New England. And they had a correspondence, Washington and Phyllis Wheatley. And she goes down as one of the most famous poets from the Revolutionary War period. And she wrote a whole mess, and you picked out a good one. And now you're going to read your poem.
Yes.
Okay.
My poem is called Female Rage. My jeans don't fit like they used to. Denim once soft now cuts into skin. Rolls and folds press against the button. A quiet rebellion of a body that refuses to stay small. My glutes have grown in size, but not in the way they celebrate online. No applause here. Just side eyes at dinner tables, whispers that think they're silent but land like stones. Unapproving glances pierce my skin as if my body is public property, as if I ask to be measured, judged, corrected. My skirt is crimson red, bold, loud, alive. It doesn't go past my knees, and somehow that's a crime. I'm told to keep my legs closed, to shrink, to soften, to silence. to take up less space, to be less. He gets upset when I say no, like my voice is a betrayal, like my body was ever his to claim. And somewhere between tight seams and tighter expectations, between my rules and my refusal, something burns, not shame, not guilt, but rage. A slow, steady fire curling in my chest, reminding me this body is mine. Every inch, every curve, every no. It's not a question, not a request, but a declaration.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things to look for here, to listen for, would be the differences, similarities and the differences. The Phyllis Wheatley poem and the poem by the modern poet of today, Anaya. And the subjects might to you sound completely disparate. But there are some techniques in there. One is a free verse one, that's the Anaya one, and one is a very close rhyme type of poem. And so you could pick out right away which one was from 1776 and which one was 2026. So Anaya, thank you for that. Lynn, you're next.
So I chose one written by Captain James Moore. Captain James Moore was from Princeton. He was a tanner and a courier by trade, and he lived on the street, which still bears his name. He was a ruling elder in the church from 1807 until his death on November 29, 1832, at the age of 80 years. He was an active patriot during the Revolution. At the Battle of Princeton, when the British Grenadiers sought refuge in the college building, Captain Moore, aided by a few of his men, burst open the door and called on them to surrender, which they instantly did. His grave in the Princeton Cemetery is marked by a monument. And his poem is called The Jersey Men's Resolve. It's a marching chant of the New Jersey militia in 1776. I love with all my heart the independent part. To obey the Parliament, my conscience won't consent. I never can abide to fight on England's side. I pray that God may bless the great and grand Congress. This is my mind and heart, though none should take my part. The man that's called a Troy to plague is my glory. For righteous is the cause to keep the Congress laws, to fight against the king, bright liberty will bring. Lord North and England's king, I hope that they will swing. Of this opinion, I resolve to live and die. And that was what he wrote.
Okay, a clever line there. I hope that they will swing, meaning that they'll be hung.
Mhm.
And you got to keep in mind that a lot of the high officers of the Americans, they had bounties on their head. If they were captured too, they had the potential of being hung as well. Okay, and then you have your poem.
Yes. So this is my poem that I wrote from what I thought might be a soldier's point of view during that time here in Middlesex County. Middlesex fields where the Raritan bends, a quiet young soldier walked roads without end. The frost kissed the earth, the air sharp with war, and the drumbeat of freedom pulsed at his core. He'd left behind hearthlight, the warmth of his name, for a musket, a promise, and liberty's flame. Through taverns and turnpikes, through shadows and pine, he marched with a cause drawn in hope's fragile line. The winter bit deep through wool worn and thin, yet fire burned brighter beneath weathered skin. For whispers of tyranny carried on wind could not shake the will that he held deep within. By the river he paused where the ice drifted slow, and thought of green summers from seasons ago, of fields not yet trampled, of laughter, of peace, of a nation unborn, praying chains soon would cease. Cannons would thunder not far from the place, and history turned with a perilous grace. But there in Middlesex steadfast he stood, a boy turned to soldier for the greater good. And though time forgets many names carved in strife, it remembers the spirit that kindled his life. A spark in the cold of a long, bitter fight, still glowing in freedom, still burning in light. Oh, thanks. Greenland.
Now, that is a borrowing of what you read first. And then this is a modern take on what was going on in those times. Good job, good job.
Thanks.
Okay, Pooja, you're next. Where's Pooja?
Oh, I never did.
Oh, over there.
We also had some slides in between where we didn't have someone to sign.
Well, you can show them gradually as they're reading.
Okay, oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
sounds good.
See it. Oh, yeah.
You're doing Philip Freneau, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Uh,
Philip Freneau is the most famous poet from the time period.
Able to pull up his. I apologize.
I had a bio on it.
Well, thank you so much.
Yes. The little background.
Yeah, sure. Let's share.
Okay.
Sure.
Philip Freneau was born in 1752 in New York City. He attended Princeton, which was then called the College of New Jersey, where he intended to study theology. But he was inspired by discussions with classmates such as James Madison and Hugh Henry Breckinridge, who switched his focus to politics. Freneau saw the potential for effecting political change through literature. He became determined to give voice to the emerging political zeitgeist, to become the poet of, in his words, paradise anew. In the years preceding the American Revolution, Freneau wrote a series of largely satirical, patriotic verses which gained wide circulation and captured the zeal of his fellow colonists. However, upon witnessing the brutalities of war, Freneau questioned the morality of war and began distancing himself from the daily carnage. His poetry departed from the patriotic themes and began to express remorse about the state of the conflict. By 1776, Freneau fled to the West Indies, where he found inspiration for the wild honeysuckle, which you'll hear later. Feeling conflicted at having abandoned his countrymen, Freneau returned to New Jersey in 1778 to enlist in the state militia. While serving, he was taken prisoner for 6 weeks on a British ship. He later chronicled his mistreatment in his work. For his patriotic contributions to literature and his country, Freneau is now known as the poet of the American Revolution.
Cool.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Deep in a veil, a stranger now to arms, too poor to shine in courts, too proud to beg. He, who once warred on Saratoga's plains, sits mused o'er his scars and wooden leg. Remembering still the toll of former days, to other hands he sees his earnings paid. They share the due reward, he feeds on praise. Lost in the abyss of want, misfortune's shade. Far, far from the domes where the splendid tapers glare, 'tis his from dear brought peace, no wealth to win. Removed alike from the courtly cringing squires, the great man's levy and the proud man's grin. Sold are those arms which once on Britons blazed, when flushed with conquest to the charge they came. That power repelled and the freedom's fabric raised, she leaves her soldier, famine, and a name. So with this, Freneau tells the story of a soldier who fought in the Battle of Saratoga and fell into poverty after the war was won, lamenting of the lack of support available to veterans. A picture from the life to serve with love and shed your blood, approved may be above. But here below, example shew, 'tis dangerous to be good. Lord Oxford.
Okay, and you were Paul?
I didn't prepare for
Oh,
to vote
okay.
today. I was only prepared with.
All right, okay, that's good. So we have something to look forward to in the future. Okay, great. Let's see. Kimberly, Francis Hopkins, is Kimberly?
I'm Francis Hopkins, unless there's another person that's doing Francis.
Oh, yeah, probably more than one.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, I'll go through this quickly then.
That's fine.
Is Kimberly on there, maybe?
No,
Kimberly
we've
Mendoza?
got Margie Duncan, Mary R, Doris Borsthold, Lisa Manganello, and Sharon S. So I don't think so.
Okay. This is a camp ballad written by Francis Hopkinson. And probably if you were going to say who came in second place after Freneau, Hopkinson could be considered number 2. So we'll go with this. Room for America. Make room, O ye kingdoms, in a story renowned, whose arms have in battle with glory been crowned. Make room for America, another great nation, arising to claim in your council a station. Her sons fought for freedom and by their own bravery have rescued themselves from the shackles of slavery. America's free, and though Britain abhorred it, yet fame a new volume prepares to record it. Fair freedom in Britain her throne had erected, but her sons growing venal and she disrespected. The goddess offended, forsook the base nation, and fixed on our mountains a more honored nation. With glory immortal she here sits enthroned, no fears the vain vengeance of Britain disowned. Whilst Washington guards her with heroes surrounded, her foes shall with shameful defeat be confounded. To arms, then to arms, 'tis fair freedom invites us. The trumpet shrill sounding to battle excites us. The banners of virtue unfurled shall wave o'er us. Our heroes lead on and the foe fly before us. O heaven, on heaven and Washington placing reliance, we'll meet the bold Briton and bid him defiance. Our cause will support, for 'tis just and 'tis glorious. When men fight for freedom, they must be victorious. That's Francis Hopkinson. Now, I have to do one that really hits close to home, and that is right after the Second Battle of Trenton, Washington made a decision to sneak away and to get up to Princeton. This is written by we don't know who. It's anonymous, and it was in the couple of colonial newspapers coming out of Pennsylvania. And it's called The Jersey Road. It could easily be, and I thought when I first read it, I thought it was about the King's Highway, and it could be a bit about the King's Highway. But then it also could be about the back road that Washington took to get to the Battle of Princeton. Okay? So this is anonymous. We don't have a bio on Anonymous because he's anonymous. Here we go. January 2nd, 1777. It was years ago, 2 armies lay encamped at night near the King's Highway, leading from Princeton to Trenton down, when Whigs fought fiercely the British crown. 'Twas a winter thaw, it was raw and damp, to the Yankee council in the Trenton camp. Washington's veterans shook their heads. We are trapped, it seems, by the cursed Reds. We must fight, there's no other way to do. But the general calmly around him drew the great gray cloak that they so well knew, and into the outer darkness strode till he reached the fence by the Jersey Road. That Jersey Road, 'twas a sight to see. The mire was up to a horse's knee. As the British knew, when on yonder steep, in their tents they sank into peaceful sleep, and dreamed of victory, won with ease, on the morrow with raw recruits like these. In front, the enemy fixed and fast, around deep roads that could not be passed. Behind, the Delaware, wild and black, like an angered snake, was in his track. The Patriot army could not go back. Was Washington crushed by the awful load? Nay, he knelt and prayed by the Jersey Road. History tells what happened then, how right in the view of his anxious men, the sleet storm ceased and the stars came forth with a sharp wind out of the icebound north. How almost before the prayer was done, the answer came and escape was won. How out of reach of the frowning host, the handful of patriots moved like ghosts, leaving their fires to burn till day, the British thinking the rebels lay in the jaws of battle, an easy prey. Nor dream the truth that the morning showed, now heaven had hardened the Jersey road. And this is factually correct. The miry road that was before, luckily, was frozen enough so that the wagons and so forth could make it to Princeton and not be bogged down in the mire. So whoever wrote this poem was pretty accurate. And sometimes when you get the poetic end of it, it's very exaggerated. But this gives you a pretty good account of the Jersey Road. All right. And next we have Margie Duncan. Is Margie on there?
Yes. Margie, you're welcome to unmute and go in.
Yes, I am here. I'm here with Washington at Princeton by Charles D. Platt. And my guy, Charles D. Platt, is a little bit different because he's writing 100 years later about the events of the Battle of Princeton. But his poem is very much in the style of the late 1700s. And it's called Washington at Princeton, January 3rd, 1777. On to the battle's front rides the undaunted chief, on past his quailing troops, on towards the charging foe, halts there unmovable. Well know his wavering men what means that last appeal. Rally, boys, rally. Full in the battle's brunt, there stands their dauntless chief, while forms the foeman's line. Ready, aim, fire. The dread roar of their musketry answers to ours. The smoke hides him we love. O God, wrapped in that murky cloud, what sight awaits our gaze? Has he too fallen, pierced by the deadly shot, hurled in by friend and foe? Ha! See, the foe is flying, while mid the dead and dying, we hail our hero chief, scatheless beyond belief. Thank God, away, away, on, and win the day.
Okay, nicely done, Margie. Nicely done. This is also fairly accurate in that Washington, when he was rallying the soldiers who were retreating and then coming back to face the British, he disappeared into the smoke of the battle and then came out of it. And I believe he took a musket ball in the hat, just missed his head. And so there were several officers, several men who were very worried that Washington was taking a horrible chance here and that he wouldn't come out of this battle alive. But he did come out of the battle. He rallied the soldiers, they won the battle, and he came out of it, as they say here, unscathed. Okay, Margie, you have your poem you're going to read?
Just have to unmute again.
Yes, here I am. I chose this poem because the grandfather of the author of the poem I read was the first judge of Suffolk County on Long Island, where I'm from. And my poem is a bit about that. So it's called Why We Let the Striped Bass Go. The day I turned 23, a few weeks before our wedding day, I caught my first striped bass, hefted its weight, rainbow hide pressed against my thighs, 9, 10 pounds, a guess before we put it back, face first, into the dark Long Island water. Bass brought $5 a pound that fall, and we were famishing for everything that makes a life. The floor, hard that night as ever, supported us while we swam in our sleep.
Very good.
Yeah.
Now notice, again, have the modern poem and we have the poem from the past. The one that Margie did, it does vary. This guy writing much later than the Revolutionary War. We see signs in that poem of we're approaching modern poetry. And so that's open for discussion. The problem is we don't have the time to discuss it. So thank you, Margie. Okay, next we have, is Martha? Martha here?
No.
Is Martha on the list?
No.
Okay, this is a short one. Okay, now there were, does everybody know what a camp follower is? Some people do. Charlie's nodding, yes, yes, we have some yeses. A camp follower is a woman who is accompanying the soldiers on their march to a battle and actually at the battle. And we'll get into that with Molly Pitcher and the campsites that they set up. There were some wives, there were some single women. A lot of them did medical service, tending to the bed. They did a lot of cooking, that sort of thing. And this is a poem by Martha Addison. And I don't have the bio for her, but she's one of the Jersey poets. And this is called Hannah Ladd's Pass. She had to have a permit to pass through the picket lines of the American Army. And it was issued to Mrs. Ladd in Gloucester County, July 1st, 1777, by John Cooper, a counselor and patriot statesman. And John Cooper is the author of the poem. The bearer, Mistress Hannah Ladd, neither very good nor bad, aged, as appears to me, not far short of 33, with stockings tied below the knee, of complexion rather fair, flaxen colored is her hair, her stature neither great nor small, her eye perhaps you'd hazel call. A traveler from here to there, and may be let go anywhere, has permission with her man, her horses and her carriage, to travel all New Jersey o'er, if well she pays her ferriage. So that's a light look at the bureaucracy that you had to go through back in the day to get into the camp, so forth. Okay. Nitin, is Nitin here?
Yes, on Zoom. And you're welcome to unmute and then
Yeah,
go.
I'm here. I have a poem. It's called, wait, let me find it. I had it on me. I have a poem. It's a ballad. I can turn my camera too. But it's called the Ballad of, wait, sorry. The Ballad of the British Ship Delight. So I don't know if you can see this, but it's a nice rhyming poem. I picked it because of its rhythm. 'Twas on a day that long had passed 100 years ago or more, with England's flag atop the mast, a gallant vessel left her shore. No peaceful trader on the seas was she, her errand was to fight, her cargo soldiers armed for war, the British privateer Delight. Across the sea her prow is set, nor winds nor waves her course delay, till borne upon the morning tide she floats in the triumph of the bay. The quiet village slept in peace, unwatching and unwarned. They thought, and here all undefended lay, the harbor which their captain sought. Not so, they kept a constant watch. They knew the threatening danger well, and from the church tower loud and clear rang out the clangor of the bell. The army had they had no army to defend their homes and loved ones from the foe. No force, no cannons to protect, but yield without a contest, no. Untried 'tis true, but not afraid, for not one coward heart was there. They knew that God was and right were theirs, and they were strong to do and dare. Their need was great, but great their faith. One power, one will inspired the whole, and all were soldiers, each possessed his musket and his dauntless soul. One on swept the ship from crowded deck, King George in England came the cry. Our sturdy yeomen from on the bank for God and freemen made reply. Close to land the vessel crept, the order came to swing her round and bring her guns to bear on shore. Too late, the ship's aground. All sails were set, aft rushed the men, aft with the guns the captain roared. In vain they strove to move the ship, they heaved the cannon overboard. Surrender, cried the minute men. We do, replied the helpless crew. The luckless captain struck his flag, naught else remained for him to do. The children of those earnest men who made their stand for liberty, and those whose fathers served their king, today clasp hands across the sea. To this day, which freedom claims her own, our glorious nation's natal day, we place on consecrated ground this cannon found in yonder bay. Here, where it speaks no more of war, in peace and silence it shall rest, and in this month that belched forth death, this timid thrush may build her nest.
All right. Do you have a bio on Lucy Weeks Trimble?
I didn't do any research because I spent so much time trying to trying to read the poem, but I have here she was born and educated in New Jersey, and her parental ancestors settled in 1666, and they came from the eastern coast of Massachusetts. She had been a facile writer from girlhood and occasionally contributed verses and sketches to magazines and newspapers. And she married Mr. James M. Thrimble of Montclair, New Jersey.
Uh-huh. Okay. And you have a poem for us of your own making.
Yes. Let me pull that up.
Is it as long as the ballad of the British ship Delight?
No, it's much shorter.
Ah. Okay, let's hear it.
Okay. So called Blacktop. Steps from all directions line across the pavement, stomping and screaming, hoping for a crack. Despite decades of construction, rearranging the crust, earth punches up, with tickling roots, feeding a flower, cracking the blacktop.
That's it. Good.
Very nice.
Okay. Notice the difference in those two poems. We have made a quantum leap there. Okay, thank you, Kit. Very good. Didn't. Barbara, you ready?
Yes, yeah, I am.
Okay, Barbara Lee and Francis Hopkins. So we could
Francis-
use a little bio on this.
Yes, you did not give us one, so
Well, I didn't want to step on your
Okay.
thunder. It's hard to step on
he
thunder.
was a New Jersey delegate to the Continental Congress. And he signed the Declaration of Independence in 1776, of course. He had a home in Bordentown, New Jersey. And this poem is called The Battle of the Kegs. And I kind of liked it because it's humorous, one of the few that's humorous. And it's based on an incident that happened in January of 1778 on the Delaware River. American forces filled kegs with gunpowder and sent them down the river towards this is not the poem, this is the backdrop, toward the British, hoping they would act as underwater mines, sinking the British ships. The kegs were not effective, but prompted a panic response from the British, who spent the entire day shooting into the water to blow up any and all pieces of debris they could spot. Okay, so here's the poem. Gallants attend and hear a friend trill forth harmonious ditty. Strange things I'll tell, which later befell in Philadelphia city. 'Twas early day, as poets say, just when the sun was rising. A soldier stood on a log of wood and saw a sight surprising. As in a maze he stood to gaze. The truth can't be denied, sir. He spied a score of kegs or more come floating down the tide, sir. A sailor, too, in jerkin blue, this strange appearance viewing, first damned his eyes in great surprise, then said, some mischief's brewing. These kegs now hold the rebels bold, picked up like pickling herring, and they're come down to attack the town in this new way of ferrying. The soldier flew, the sailor too, and scared almost to death, sir, wore out their shoes to spread the news, and ran till out of breath, sir. Now up and down throughout the town, most frantic scenes were acted, and some ran here and others there, like men almost distracted. Some fire cried, which some denied, but said the earth had quaked, and girls and boys were hideous noise, ran through the streets half naked. Sir William, he, snug as a flea, lay all this time a snoring, nor dreamt of harm as he lay warm in the bed with Mrs. Loring. Now in a fright, he starts upright, awake by such a clatter, first rubs his eyes, then boldly cries, "For God's sake, what's the matter?" At his bedside he then spied Sir Erskine at command, sir. Upon one foot he had one boot, and t'other in his hand, sir. "Arise, arise," Sir Erskine cries, "the rebels, more's the pity, without a boat are all afloat, and ranged before the city." The motley crew, in vessels new, with Satan for their guide, sir, packed up in bags and wooden kegs, come driving down the tide, sir. Therefore prepare for bloody war. These kegs must all be routed, or surely we despised shall be, and British valor doubted. The royal band now ready stand, all ranged in dread array, sir, on every slip and every ship for to begin the fray, sir. The canyons roar from shore to shore, the small arms make a rattle. Since wars began, I'm sure no man e'er saw so strange a battle. The rebel dales, the rebel vales, with rebel trees surrounded, the distant woods, the hills and floods, with rebel echoes sounded. The fish below swam to and fro, attacked from every quarter. Why, sure, thought they, the devil's to pay, among folks above the water. The kegs, 'tis said, though strongly made of rebel staves and hoops, sir, could not oppose their powerful foes, the conquering British troops, sir. From morn to night, these men of might displayed amazing courage, and when the sun was fairly down, retired to sup their porridge. 100 men with each pen or more, upon my word, sir, it is most true would be too few their valor to record, sir. Such feats did they perform that day against these wicked kegs, sir, that years to come, if they get home, they'll make their boast and brag, sir. I don't know if you know the story about Mrs. Loring. It was quite a scandal.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
That is.
It was true, right?
You're talking about William Howe,
Yes,
and yeah, that was a big deal, a big scandal.
yes.
And this is your light verse. And of course, we have light verse today also. Barb, how about your poem?
Oh, I didn't know we were supposed to bring one, so I spent all my time reading books, so that's all right.
Well, then you could be arrested.
Yeah, I know.
All right, let's move on. Now I have Brian Duncan. Is Brian on?
He should be with Margie.
I see Margie Duncan. If you want to unmute, I saw you guys on there before. You're welcome to go on.
Is Brian? Because
I'm here.
Yep,
I'm
he's
here.
there.
I have. Are you doing the Pine Barrens?
Yeah, to the dog Sancho.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm doing.
Okay. That's the next one, right?
Okay, that's fine. Go right ahead.
All right. I have a couple little tidbits. This is a poem by Philip Freneau again. And I had another couple little tidbits of his life. He at some point he was writing for a partisan newspaper called the National Gazette, and kind of reflective of our own times. It says in Wikipedia, owing to the Gazette's frequent attacks on his administration and himself, George Washington took a particular dislike to Freneau.
Do you think you're driving Audi Q7?
Yeah.
Thank you, Ellie. Okay.
British is coming. Go ahead. Go ahead, Brian.
Okay, and the other little tidbit was he died at 80 years of age, frozen to death while returning to his home near Freehold, New Jersey.
Oh,
Pretty sad. Okay, my poem is titled "To the Dog Sancho," and it has a little epigraph that says, "An incident of the Pine Barrens, Monmouth County, New Jersey, 1778. The world, my dear Sancho, is full of distress, and you have your share, I allow and confess. For twice with a musket and now a cateau, you had nearly gone off to dog heaven below. Was this your reward, to be slashed, to be cut, for defending at midnight the door of a hut? You had little to fight for, had little to win, yet you boldly held out till the robbers broke in. The blade which was meant the bold robber to face, to guard a fair lady or serve in the chase, was drenched in the blood of an innocent cur, who said in dog language, "What want you, good sir?" Poor fellow, I pity your pitiful case. In fact, they have ruined the round of your face. And die when you will, be it early or late, you will go to your grave with a scar on your pate. If ever a dog be permitted to pass where folks I could mention have fixed on a place, but which, I suspect, they will hardly attain, while rights of preemption in Satan remain. Good Sancho had merit to put in his plea and claim with the claimants a portion in fee, on the ground that in life he was one of the few who in watching and barking were trusty and true. To warn us of danger, he ventured his beef, and in his own lingo cried robber and thief. So now in return for the good he has done, for the vigils he kept and the battle he won, I'll give him a verse with the great of his age, and if he quite dies, he must die in my page. And long may he live in despite of the mob, and the fools who his master, a poet, would rob. Wherever I take up my evening retreat, dear Sancho, I'll have you to lie at my feet. And whether at home or in regions remote, for a bed I'll allot you the skirt of a coat. With my dog at my feet and my gun at my head, I am equally safe in a fort or a shed. From a snap of his teeth and the shot of a gun, thrice happy the thief that is able to run. That was it.
Now, that is an interesting tale, dog's tale. That's an interesting tale because here we have a hero that's a dog, hero of the revolution.
Right.
Very interesting. And Brian, you're ready with your poem,
I
correct?
am. Yes. And
Okay, fire away.
okay, we all love our dogs, so I picked a dog I wrote about when our dog died. It's called How to Bury Your Dog Using a Sonnet. Close your eyes, smell his fur for the last time, clip a lock from his tail, tie it with yarn, hang his faded blue collar by the door, dig a hole under his black locust tree. Feel the rough gray leather of his paw pads. Run your fingers over the half-moon scar from the broken bottle he stepped on in the pond. Fill the hole with bully sticks, balls, and surrender. Flip his ear inside out, then back again. Lock the gate that leads to the trails out back. Pull the batteries from the GPS tracker. Plant sweet pepper bush all around. Scrape the food dishes, empty the water bowl. Listen for echoes of nail clicks on tiles. That's it.
Yeah.
Beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful.
Great. Thank you.
And where do we go from here? Well, the only way I can top that is a poem about Molly Pitcher. And she is a legend, and the problem with Molly Pitcher is still to this day, we don't know exactly who Molly Pitcher exactly was. So you can make your choice. The poet here is Laura Elizabeth Richards, and her maiden name is Howe, Laura Elizabeth Howe Richards. She's the daughter of Samuel Gridley Howe and the wife and his wife Julia Ward. And she married Mr. Henry Richards. They resided in Gardner, Maine for most of her life. Mrs. Richard is a very successful writer of juvenile literature. She's published about 40 books. including, and of course you all know these books, Five Mice in a Mousetrap. That was in 1880. Our Baby's Favorite, Toto's Merry Winter, Captain January and Queen Hildegard. Those are household names for titles. You all know that. Okay. And so here we go with Molly Pitcher. It starts out talking about Molly's husband. Pitcher the gunner is brisk and young. He's a lightsome heart and a merry tongue, an ear like a fox, an eye like a hawk, a foot that would sooner run than walk, and a hand that can touch the linstock home as the lightning darts from the Thunderdome. He hates a Tory, he loves a fight. The roll of the drum is his heart's delight. And three things rule the gunner's life: his country, his gun, and his Irish wife. Oh, Molly, with your eyes so blue, oh, Molly, Molly, here's to you. Sweet honors roll with I be richer to hold the name of Molly Pitcher. The sun shoots down on Monmouth fight, his brazen arrows broad and bright. They strike on sabre's glittering sheen, on rifle stock and bayonet keen. They pierce the smoke cloud gray and dim, where stand the gunners swart and grim, firing fast as shot can flee, at the foe they neither hear nor see. Where all are brave, the bravest one, Pitcher the gunner serves his gun. Oh, Molly, Molly, haste and bring the sparkling water from the spring, to drive the heat and thirst away, and keep your soldiers glad and gay. A bullet comes singing over the brow, and Pitcher's gun is silent now. The brazen throat that roared his will, the shout of his warlike joy is still. The black lips curl, but they shoot no flame, and the voice that cries on the gunner's name finds only its echo where he lies, with a steadfast face turned up to the skies. Oh, Molly, Molly, where he lies, his last look meets with faithful eyes. His last thought sinks from love to love of your darling face that bends above. No one to serve in Pitcher's stead. Wheel back the gun, the captain said, when like a flash before him stood a figure dashed with smoke and blood, with streaming hair, with eyes of flame, and lips that falter the gunner's name. Wheel back his gun that never yet his fighting duty did forget. His voice shall speak, though he lie dead. I'll serve my husband's gun, she said. Oh, Molly, now your hour is come. Up, girl, and strike the linstock home. Leap out, swift ball, away, away, avenge the gunner's death today. All day the great guns barked and roared, all day the big ball screeched and soared, all day mid the sweating gunners grim, who toiled in their smoke shroud dense and dim. Sweet Molly labored with courage high, with steady hand and watchful eye, till the day was ours, and the sinking sun looked down on the field of Monmouth won, and Molly standing beside her gun. Now, Molly, rest your weary arm. Safe, Molly, all is safe from harm. Now, woman, bow your aching head, and weep in sorrow o'er your dead. Next day on that field so hardly won, stately and calm stands Washington, and looks where our gallant Greene doth lead, a figure clad in motley weed, a soldier's cap and a soldier's coat, masking a woman's petticoat. He greets our Molly in kindly wise, he bids her raise her tearful eyes, and now he hails her before them all, comrade and soldier, whate'er befall. And since she has played a man's full part, a man's reward for her loyal heart, and Sergeant Molly Pitcher's name be writ henceforth on the shield of fame. Oh, Molly, with your eyes so blue, oh, Molly, Molly, here's to you. Sweet honor's roll will I be richer to hold the name of Molly Pitcher. Okay, we have Business Cyan. Is she here?
Yeah, it's on Zoom. You're welcome to unmute whenever you would like.
Business calling in from Rider College, Rider University.
Hi everyone.
Hello.
Um, so
Are you ready?
I'll be reading The American Soldier by Philip Furneaux. Um I do have some fun facts about him. So he was raised in Matawan, New Jersey, and he attended the College of New Jersey, which is known today as Princeton. And one of his closest friends was actually James Madison. Um, and their friendship really like laid the groundwork for like their future collaboration during and after the American Revolution. So after graduating, he tried his hand at teaching, but he realized it wasn't for him. So then he decided to study theology, but that lasted about 2 years. He did manage to write a bunch of anti-British articles as the Revolutionary War approached. But when the war started in 1776, he found himself in the American West Indies, working as a business agent for the next 2 years. So the experience that he had in the West Indies opened his eyes to the horrors of slavery, which he documented in his poems. And he just like I feel like that experience like changed him a lot, and he became famous as like an anti-slavery poet. So that's and then I'll be reading his one of his famous poems, The American Soldier. Deep in the deep in the veil Deep in a vale, a stranger now to arms, too poor to shine in courts, too proud to beg. He who once warred on Saratoga's plains, sits musings o'er his scars and wooden leg, remembering still the toil of former days. To other hands he sees his earnings paid. They share the due reward, he feeds on praise. Lost in the abyss of want, misfortune's shade. Far, far from domes where splendid tapers glare. 'Tis his from dear brought peace, no wealth to win. Removed alike from courtly, cringing squires. The great man's levy and the proud man's grin. Sold are those arms which once on Britons blazed, when, flushed with conquest, to the charge they came. That power repelled and freedom's fabric raised. She leaves her soldier, famine, and a name.
Hmm.
Okay, that's it.
Okay, and your poem?
Oh, yes. Let me just pull it up right
I
here.
reminded you.
Thank you. So this is called The Rewrite. I had a friend who they wrote a poem, and I gave feedback on it, and then they were like, "Okay, well, how would you write it?" So I rewrote their poem. The whispers in my soul play author, mentions of a victim and martyr. They come out at night as they hold me tight, smile at first, just to slaughter. Days spent in pain, of thoughts, will I or will I not? Echo they do, my might in vain. Craving a silence so numb, for blood, will it rain or will it not? The dire nature, a life of crumbs. The whispers I hear play doctor, sounds of a piston and copter. They come out in fear, a sight so near, my blight body just a proctor.
Hmm.
I know it's a very dark poem.
That's all right, because we know that darkness in 2026 is a big deal. And dark matter and so forth like that. So you're right on target. Remember, you're paving the way for the next 250 years. Okay, so good job. Thank you. Okay, what do we have next? Well, we have the wild honeysuckle, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I think everything has been said about Philip Freneau.
Yeah.
At this point.
Right. He's so famous at this table that he becomes a household name.
Yeah, the only thing I can add is that in the latter half of his career, in addition to writing for that partisan newspaper in Philadelphia, he also wrote more like rural and naturalistic type poems and lived like a rural lifestyle. Yeah. Okay. So this poem is a less literal take on the American Revolution. This poem uses the metaphor of a flower to illustrate the transformative nature of the war as it gave birth to the United States. So this is called The Wild Honeysuckle by Philip Freneau, written in 1786. Fair flower that dost so comely grow, hid in this silent dull retreat, untouched thy honeyed blossoms blow, unseen thy little branches greet. No roving foot shall crush thee here, no busy hand provoke a tear. By nature's self in white arrayed, she bade thee shun the vulgar eye, and planted here the guardian shade, and sent soft waters murmuring by. Thus quietly thy summer goes, thy days declining to repose. Smit with those charms that must decay, I grieve to see thy future doom. They died, nor were those flowers more gay, the flowers that did in Eden bloom. Unpitying frosts and autumn's power shall leave no vestige of this flower. From morning suns and evening dews, at first thy little being came. If nothing once, you nothing lose, for when you die, you are the same. The space between is but an hour, the mere idea of a flower.
That sort of shows the skill and ability of Freneau to write a poem, because there's a lot in this poem. And this is the type of poem that requires more than one reading. Now, we don't have the time to do that. But what I suggest you do is look up on your devices Philip Freneau and check out some of the stuff that he wrote. Because if he's the number one person, then we should know why he's the number one person at the time. Why is Philip Freneau known as the poet of the Revolution? And I'll leave it up to you to try to answer that question. Good reading. And now you're ready to read yours.
Yeah.
Which is even better than Philip Freneau.
Thank you. This poem is called Day Again. My whole world is where you are, my sun, my moon, and every star. Breath held to catch the break of dawn, the cool of morning breath is drawn. Then you I saw, and day grew bright, the desert heat erased the night. Shadows rush away from land, we roll across the warming sand. The clouds bow low across the west, softly laced in gentle rest. Alas, our precious day descends to dark, and brings the patter of a little rain, but sure to see the day again. In peace exhale a dream and heaven's wonder, a rumble deep and soft as thunder. Blessed to hold an angel's sleep, this angel by his grace I keep. Since that day did my heart thaw, for you and I sleep paw to paw. My whole world is where you are, my sun, my moon, and every star.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's another canine poem.
Yes.
And it's interesting. We have a sub theme for tonight, right? The heroes that are dogs. Now we're going to finish up, Callum. This is the last one.
Got Stockton, and then we have Gold.
Yeah. Do you have time for?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Whatever long people want to stay.
All right. I might cry on the last one, so I was going to try to avoid reading it. It's, the last one is an old war veteran from the Revolution talking to his grandson. And who wants to know about the war. But before that, we got the number one hero worshiper of George Washington. And that's Annis Boudinot Stockton from Princeton, just down the road. And this Stockton family was one of the famous families of Princeton. And she was definitely an admirer of Washington. This is an ode, and it's entitled Ode to Washington. With all thy country's blessings on thy head, and all the glory that encircles man, the deathless fame to distant nations spread, and realms unblessed by freedom's genial plan. Addressed by statesmen, legislators, and kings, revered by thousands as you pass along, while every muse with ardor spreads her wings to greet her hero, our hero in immortal song. Say, can a woman's voice an audience gain, and stop a moment thy triumphal car? And wilt thou listen to a peaceful strain, unskilled to paint the horrid wrack of war? For what is glory? What are martial deeds, unpurified at virtue's awful shrine? Full oft remorse a glorious day succeeds. The motive only stamps the deed divine. But thy last legacy, renowned chief, hath decked thy brow with honors more sublime. Twined in thy wreath the Christian's firm belief, and nobly own thy faith to future time. Hence, that's an ode, and that's sort of an old-fashioned way of writing poetry, but we still have odes today, because when you're praising somebody, eulogy type of thing, you can put that in the category. Now, the last one I have is Hannah Flagg Gould's The Veteran and the Child. And Hannah Flagg is later on, she's writing this later on. And so she qualifies as a 19th century poet. She wrote a lot about the Revolutionary War. Her poems tend to be short, and she wrote for magazines and annuals and so forth. And she has a collection. She had collections of poems. The high water mark of her verse was reached in a poem entitled "A Name in the Sand." But again, she's one of New Jersey's poets. The Veteran and the Child, and we'll close with this. Come, grandfather, show how you carried your gun to the field where America's freedom was won, or bore your old sword, which you say was new then, when you rose to command and led forward your men, and tell how you felt with the balls whizzing by, where the wounded fell round you to bleed and to die. The prattler had stirred in the veteran's breast the embers of fire that had long been at rest. The blood of his youth rushed anew through his veins. The soldier returned to his weary campaigns, his perilous battles at once fighting o'er, while the soul of 19 lit the eye of 80. I carried my musket as one that must be, but loosed from the hold of the dead or the free. And fearless I lifted my good trusty sword in the hand of a mortal, the strength of the Lord. In battle my vital flame freely, I felt, should go but the chains of my country to melt. I sprinkled my blood upon Lexington's sod, and Charlestown's green height to the warm drum I trod. From the fort on the Hudson our guns I depressed, the proud coming sail of the foe to arrest. I stood at still water, the lakes, and white plains, and offered for freedom to empty my veins. Dost now ask me, child, since thou hearest where I've been, Why my brow is so furrowed, my locks white and thin? Why this faded eye cannot go by the line, trace out little beauties and sparkle like thine? Or why so unstable his tremulous knee, who bore 60 years since such perils for thee? What, sobbing so quick? Are the tears going to start? Come, lean thy young head on thy grandfather's heart. It is not much longer to glow with the joy I feel thus to clasp thee, so noble a boy. But when the earth's bosom it long has been cold, a man thou it recall, what a babe thou art told. And so ends another chapter in Zoom conference. It's something different,
Yeah.
and we have a little time, and anybody wants to discuss anything, make any comments and so forth. Couple of announcements going on. I have finished finally the census of 1825 for South Brunswick. And anybody who wants a copy, I'll have that ready. There's just, I got to do some fine tuning on the slaves of South Brunswick. Because I recently stumbled across two sources. I don't know if you know about this, but did you ever hear of Judge Van Wickle? Judge Van Wickle out of South River had a different name. I think it was Washington. It was called Washington for a while before it was called South River. Judge Van Wickle had a scam going on where he was taking slaves from this area, Central Jersey. I have not found one from South Brunswick yet, but I have the whole list of all the slaves from Central Jersey who were sold downriver to Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. And what they were the masters who were finding it not economical to have as many slaves as they had. And many, many people in South Brunswick had slaves. They could unload those slaves, and a lot of them were very young, kids, born from their families, sold to Van Sickle, put on a ship, sneaking out down the river, down the Atlantic Ocean, around to New Orleans, and sold there to slave owners, plantation owners down in the South, never to be heard from again. It's one of the worst things that happened during the period of American slavery, and it happened in our state. And they have now researched it, and they have the names of all the slaves, or most all of the slaves that were sold down the river from New Jersey. And I wanted to reveal that. We may not have had exactly one from South Brunswick, but the thing is, we're sort of associated with it because it's a Central Jersey thing. And South River is not very far away, just down the road, so to speak. But anyway, I have to add that to the census if I come across anybody. And then that'll be available for you. Should be available next week.
What's the total number of people, population devices?
Well, see, here's the problem. I did the census for 1800 to 1825. But anybody who died before 1825 is also recorded there. So it's not like, see, back in those days, New Jersey got messed up as far as the federal census is concerned. And I'm doing 25 years at a time. So I go from 1800 to 1825. So my census is my census. It's not a state census. It's not a federal census. It's what I saw people living in South Brunswick from 1800 to 1825. So it's the number. If I give you the thousands that are there, I would say you're talking about maybe maximum 4,000 people. But you gotta keep in mind that South Brunswick was larger back then.
Self-worth.
The South Ward to start with, and then when it was South Brunswick, you still had a lot of areas that, like Plainsboro and Cranberry and so forth. So, and it's hard for me to find exactly where they lived. So that part is missing. But if you take this census and you're looking for some name in particular, some family or something like that, like the McDowells, you will find all the McDowells that were living during that time period, and the ones who died during that time period, and the ones who were born in that time period. So it's helpful in one way, and it's confusing in another way. But that's what makes history interesting, and that makes it fun. So when I pass away, Kellen's going to be researching again and starting again. And he's going to have as much fun as I had. Yeah, but I just wanted to tell you about that in case you're interested in it. These booklets here, this is a combination. There's a couple of ones that I did about Revolutionary War poetry, and these are from the Word Larks. We did some street poetry. If you don't know what street poetry is, you can ask the question. And then we have our anthology that we did for 2025. And we'll have another anthology coming out. We have to comb through. We're not finished yet. We got to pick out the ones we want in it, the winners, and then we'll have another anthology. So we're going great with that. But do you have any questions about Revolutionary War stuff, poetry, anything at all? It doesn't have to be about poetry.
It's okay. We have to.
Yeah, because we may have run out of time.
It's all right. I think we have.
Today's theme was Thomas Paine. I guess he apparently wrote his famous Common Sense down in Bordentown, New Jersey. And the building he did it in still exists.
Well, be careful with that. Thomas Paine accompanied the soldiers retreating from the Battle of New York, which was probably the most embarrassing loss that George Washington had. Thomas Paine was with him. The accounts that I have read indicate that Paine, well, there were two tomes that he wrote. And some of that was written in New Jersey during the retreat. And they say that he wrote it by campfire light. And he was scribbling down things and so forth. So while the soldiers were sleeping, he was writing. And Thomas Paine was a character, heavy drinker, had trouble with debts, and he owed people a lot of money. He was a typical American, I guess you might. But anyway, I would say this, and anybody who asks you about Thomas Paine, say he wrote some of the stuff that you're talking about as they passed through South Brunswick. Because there was a retreat campsite, we don't know exactly where it was, between 6 Mile Run and 9 Mile Run, as far as I could tell. And at that campsite, he was probably writing down some of the stuff that you're talking about.
His brand in Bordentown. Take a lot of credit.
There was a person in the art salon, and that person was saying that, no, he wrote it up in a town in North Jersey. And he wrote all of it. No, that's not true. Because he wrote it in dribs and drabs as he could. And so we're actually part of that history. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise.
Yeah.
Anybody else have some comment or question?
In other history news in South Brunswick, I know you brought some things, so I'll let you go after. We are the Historic Preservation Commission. Thank you for being here. I'm just saying we are doing fun things. Hopefully we have some fun public facing things that hopefully are going to come about towards the end of May that we're working on. And then we're going to keep doing this in the library at least once at the end of the last calendar Wednesday of the month. We're going to come up with another topic, and you guys, poets or not, are welcome to join to learn something hopefully exciting. And also thank you again for coming. It's like the biggest crowd that we've had this year, which is awesome.
Historians come together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Historians and poets, you can't beat that.
No,
That's worth a bottle of wine right there.
really good. This is recorded too, so if you have anyone that'd be interested, it'll be on the YouTube probably tomorrow. And I have, now that I have like pretty much everybody's emails, I can send it out to the crew that was here. You have some stuff about Kingston, right?
Yeah.
You can feel free to share. I know you don't-
Charlie's representing Kingston.
Feel free to share. It was open house.
So the big thing is that the Kingston Historical Society has an open house this Saturday from 10 to 4, as those folks know down there. They put up the signs. We're going to do it at the Canal House, which is our space.
Yeah.
By the Kingston Lock, and doing demos and things like that, and some refreshments and whatever. And it's a good time. Please come by.
Charlie, I have to add, that 2 of my books are only sold at the lock tender's house.
Yes, they are. I got them. They're upstairs in boxes.
We're gonna bring them down for Saturday.
I'll even bring it down.
The other thing is that that May the 16th is
I don't have any.
Me neither.
sorry.
Okay, we have to pay attention to Charlie because he was a former captain in the militia.
That's it. I was, I guess. The other thing is that May the 16th, which is a Saturday, is Middlesex County History Day at East Jersey Old Town Village, which is off Landing Lane. It's across from Franklin Township in Piscataway, and that's all day. And they're going to have a lot of different programs there. I went to it last year, and they had folks marching around, and there were all the different historical societies from the county. They had a big tent with all sorts of different things, so you learn a lot about all sorts of different things around the county. And then anyway, the other thing is that you can come down to the lock tender's house any Saturday or Sunday. We have the place open, and are glad to do that.
Charlie, what about your tea time talks? Do you have?
The tea time talk.
Yeah.
We actually had a March one. The January one was snowed out. The February one was snowed out.
Oh, goodness.
And then we had a March one. We had 3.5 talks on in March, including one on the Kingston First Aid Squad and Rescue Squad. One, interestingly, talk about Thomas Paine, George Washington, and the Will o' the Wisp. And we're still in the process of processing that around so that it can be on the website. But it was George Washington discovers swamp gas. Yeah. Well, actually, he discovered. Everybody knew about it, but nonetheless, there was a nice description of it by Thomas Paine. And what was the third one? The third one was the first lock tender in Kingston.
Yes.
Which is a fascinating story with everything, including piracy. It's like what on earth?
If you come down to the open house, I'll show you, I'll take you around the canal, give you some information about how the canal was built and why. All of the information. I'll also show you the bridge it's been rebuilt, but Washington had destroyed us from Princeton, the Battle of Princeton. There's a lot of information in Kingston.
Yeah, it's lots of stuff.
Cool.
Okay. The other one is the Wickle Slave Ring. There's a group called Lost Souls Memorial NJ.org, which talks about at least 137 men, women, and children as young as just a few days old were lost into the Van Wickle slave ring over the course of 1818.
Yeah, and
so there's a whole website on
that's
that.
what I'm talking about. And unfortunately, the kids in school will never hear about this.
Well,
Never hear about this.
there
And
are-
most people walking around in New Jersey don't have a clue. They don't.
Well, they also don't know that in Parkdale Boy was the first original slave auction.
Yeah, right.
It's true.
So anyway, that you brought that up, and there's a group in around New Brunswick.
Yeah, well, I'm glad there is, and, to bring it to light. While we're celebrating the 2026 and the 1776, it's not all fun and games, and it's not all Shangri-La, and this is fantastic, and that's been. You have to really dig deep and get into the nitty and the gritty of it and deal with the weaknesses as well as the strengths and see what it took to get us from the revolution to the freeing of the slaves and the number of years. And then New Jersey was one of the last states, I think the last state in the North to free the slaves.
New Jersey was very fickle on their anti-slavery policies in general. Also, Lisa said they're working on sharing some of those stories.
Yeah.
She said the message.
Yeah.
But yeah, New Jersey was very, very lax on anti-slavery policies till after the Civil War. So it took, even for a northern state, like in pre-Civil War political votes, anything like that, New Jersey leaned still more towards a conservative aspect or a more like the more pro-slavery aspect at the time.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
which
And
is interesting.
This might be a subject that we could tackle,
Yeah.
From a local attitude
Yeah.
towards it.
Yeah.
So that's a possibility.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's something to think about and check out on your devices.
I also brought a couple of brochures that are just, we're trying to get people to do some archiving things. There's a very marvelous professional bit of South Brunswick archiving done. And what we do is we have a pile of stuff in our electioneer's house, and we're just trying to figure out
Piles.
Yeah.
We saw pictures of you and your wife archiving.
Oh, yeah.
One ton.
Oh, yeah. You would be
The
surprised.
newsletter?
You would be surprised with stuff that you find up there. I
Yeah.
actually have a cannonball from the Revolution.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, keep in mind, the folks that don't know, see, Kingston straddles the border.
Yeah.
Borders, I'm sorry. But that's why they're sort of semi-independent. Okay, and we want to keep it that way.
Yeah.
Because they're feisty and crusty down there.
No. We're arrogant.
Oh, arrogant. Some of the citizens are arrogant.
Yeah.
Oh.
We're not.